Red Man Down, Clean Up on Aisle podcast.
This is Clean Up on Aisle podcast, the dirty truth about grocery stores. I'm your host, Jef Harmatz, joined with your other host, Adam Fligsten. Hello, Adam.
Hello, Jeff.
And today we have, we pushed back on the description of writer, but you are certainly a letterer and a podcaster and a talent and in comics. You've written a few things. DC Hopkins, hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Good.
We were just talking about American movie. You and I worked on you wrote it. You came to me with it. I drew it. But you wrote a comic about the time you almost met Mark Borchardt, the star, or the subject, rather, of American movie.
Yeah.
And did you ever end up meeting him?
No, never have. I've found different podcasts and appearances and stuff online, and have kind of kept tabs on. That makes it sound like I'm stalking him. I've, listened to him talk about movies and stuff like that, and the years since, but have never been able to actually meet him. No.
Does he do like conventions or any meet and greet kind of stuff?
I'm not sure. I haven't, at least not like larger. I used to be more plugged into the horror convention scene and never noticed him on that. Maybe locally in Wisconsin. I'm not totally sure, but I mean, he's got to be now in his, I don't know, 50s, 60s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit younger. The documentary came out in 99, so it's older now.
Like, hopefully future guests of this podcast, Mark Borchardt always reminds me a little bit of, like, if Clerks didn't work, like for Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And hopefully, famous podcasting gentlemen now would love to have Kevin Smith on. No shade to Kevin Smith.
Sure.
But, had Mark Borchardt, succeeded with COVID, and in a way that, Clark succeeded, he would probably be doing his weird, Walrus Man horror movies and things like that. And, doing podcasts, opening up movie theater, etc.
And so, now so I was going to say one more thing. Now that you asked that, I just remembered I do have a signed copy of the Coven VHS tape in the other room. So I've interacted with items that have interacted with Mark Borchardt. So that's the closest I think I've come.
Coven's not good, right? I've never seen it.
I don't know that I've actually ever watched it either. Okay. I've seen the documentary a bunch, but I don't have a VCR, so I can't watch it right now. But
you got to get a VCR.
I know.
Yeah. You're a big horror movie guy, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I was I've never been a horror movie guy. Adam, are you a horror movie guy?
Medium. I like horror movies, but I don't see them as often as I probably would like. I always enjoy a good horror movie.
I think I'm turning into a little bit of a horror movie guy,
because of Final Destination.
Well, that's my favorite movie of the last year. The new Final Destination.
Bloodlines.
Really hard.
Yeah, it's good. I saw that too.
You saw it?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
All right, I loved it. I've watched it 3 times since it dropped on HBO. I've never seen any of the Final Destinations before, but I when you were talking about revisiting American movie at different times in your life, it means different things at different eras. And I always thought of horror movies as that's what you do when you need to go kiss a girl in a movie theater. You take her to go see, Saw 3. And when she gets gross, she curls up in your arms and you get to be the big tough guy that watched the gross stuff.
Yeah.
But now I'm just kind of getting into it for the first time. I've been made fun of for watching too much horror movies lately.
What else have you watched?
I mean, I did all the Final Destinations. I did the Nightmare on Elm Streets, which I loved.
I've actually haven't seen them all.
I haven't seen all of them, but I watched most of them.
Yeah.
And also it's a big year for horror movie. They've got Dracula and Frankenstein in the Academy Awards this year. David, where's your at with horror movies these days?
Oh man, I try to watch most of the new stuff that comes out, the bigger, higher profile stuff. I just saw the new Sam Raimi movie, Send Help, which I had fun with. And what was the other one? I just went and saw Iron Lung, which is kind of making waves, no pun intended.
Is it about an ocean?
It's a guy who's in a submarine inside of an ocean of blood. Yeah. So
what?
Yeah, it's based off of an indie horror game of the same name. And pretty cool concept. The game itself, you're in this submarine. There's been this it's like a sci-fi horror deal. There's been this event where every planet and star has disappeared. So basically, the only people left alive are people that were on like space stations or in spaceships or whatever. And I'm trying to remember if they find another planet and it's filled with blood. I don't remember. But anyway, in the game, you're on a submarine, and so you can't interact or see anything outside of the submarine, but there's a camera that you can push, and it will show you a picture of what's outside the sub. So you're kind of using that to sort of navigate around. And it's got like a Lovecraftian cosmic horror kind of bend to it too.
I mean, I assume if you're taking a look at the submarine, it's just blood, right? Or is there stuff like bloodfish?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at least in the movie, I haven't played the game. At least in the movie, they explained that it's like an X-ray camera, so it's giving you an approximation or whatever. But the main reason I went to see it in the theater is this is why I started to say it's making waves, because it's written, directed, edited, and starring Markiplier, who's like a very famous YouTuber, and he does a lot of Let's Plays for specifically like indie horror games, and he loved Iron Lung. So much so that he then reached out to the developer. I think is also just one guy, and got the rights to make a movie and self-financed it. It was supposed to be in like 200 theaters, I think most at max, and it made it into the top 10 box office. Like it's done crazy well. So in terms of YouTuber type people interacting with filmmaking, pretty unprecedented. So I was like, well, I got to see this, and in the theater, and I liked the concept of it and stuff. So
yeah, it's pretty impressive though how popular it is, and how they hired the video game composer to score the movie, which I respect.
Oh, cool!
All right,
yeah,
nice.
And Adam, you are a video game. Have we said that on the radio that you do video game composing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. But no, it's been a big fun. I mean, yes, every year is a big year for horror, but this year feels maybe bigger. And is as big as Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Well, it's the only genre that the studios that is relatively cheap that the studios will fund these days. So, which for better or worse.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you. So, David, way back in the day, you and I met working on a never to be released graphic novel. One day we will tell that story.
I was just thinking about that today.
But we've obviously worked on a few different things together, and were you getting started as a letterer when we kind of first met? I certainly was getting started in comics myself. That was really my first go round.
I wasn't quite getting started, but I'm trying to think. I wasn't yet full. I mean, not that I use this as a barometer of how far I was in, but I wasn't yet full time making a living as a letterer. But I was a ways in terms of like there's a studio that I work with a lot now. I was already set up with them, and which that was one of the things I was thinking about today. I was like, had it been very early on in my career, I think I would have navigated that situation differently. But I'm not going to get in the weeds on that. But it was.
This is a great time to say what a letterer is. What is like. It's a comic book thing, but tell us what a letterer does.
Sure. So the way I describe it to people typically is just that I do all of the word balloons, sound effects, graphic designy stuff. So the artist sends me the pages. If everything has gone exceptionally well, I get to work with colors, but a lot of times it's inks or even pencils, depending on how late everyone is and how urgently the editors are making everyone work at the same time. And then I get the script from the writer, and then I marry the two. So it's getting all of anything that's in the script that isn't on the page yet, which is going to be all the dialogue, all the sound effects. A lot of times, depending on the artist, sometimes, they'll be like, yeah, I'll draw this cell phone, but there's no fucking way can I swear on this? Sorry, I should have asked that.
Oh yeah, of course. Abso-fucking-lutely.
I'll draw this cell phone, but I'm not going to draw all the text messages in here. I'll leave that for the letter. So stuff like that a lot of times will fall to me too, or like street signs or stuff like that. But it's mostly word balloons and sound effects. And then
I don't mean to look, I'm a cartoonist. I love comics with my heart. I always want to say like, you're putting the words in Mort's mouth when he's talking to Bazooka Joe. And then
perfect. There you go.
Very excited. Then he goes backwards off the screen and it says womb, and you're also doing the wombs.
Yep, exactly. And yeah, I should specify too, this is like you're sort of like more it's indie and mainstream, and I work with bigger publishers and then also, indie projects, Kickstarters, whatever. But this is like the more kind of traditional assembly line sort of comic book stuff separate from cartooning. Because when with your comics, you're doing all of it. And a lot of times you're hand letter. I'm assuming maybe always hand lettering.
I've been doing it really. So like I assume that you're working digitally and using like some specially designed fonts and building the big sound effects in. Do you do much hand like design with the sound effects stuff?
Yeah, it depends on the book and kind of what the style is. A lot of times with like superhero books and big two, Marvel, DC, or even Image, Boom, those guys too. Like it'll be usually a sort of style that is kind of well established, especially for readers and, grammar and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm kind of trying to like synergize that with the artist style a little bit more too. But for the most part, it's it's that particular style. But when opportunities come up, and I love the opportunities when they do to do hand drawn stuff, then I will. And it still is digitally. I have a Cintiq, so it's through that. But
Do you spend a lot of time thinking about like the flow of the eye as it goes across the page? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And fortunately, like that, I grew up reading comic books. I didn't get into lettering until I was in college, so I had sort of a lifetime of training, at least in the sense of kind of just knowing instinctually where things should go and where I should move and stuff like that. So a lot of times when I'm just laying stuff down, I'm kind of going panel by panel, but at the end, I'll always zoom out at the entire page and then be like, oh, okay, I can probably, make this flow a little bit better here. It'll still work the way it is, but just in terms of like a better composition for the word, like the lettering on the page, adjust it a little bit.
And generally, do the artists leave space for you, like draw something kind of boring? Where
the good ones do. When I say good ones, I don't mean talent, but just the ones that think about that stuff do. But yeah, it depends. There definitely will be situations where they do not leave enough room, and then it's like an extreme close up of someone's face in the entire panel, and I'm like, well, I'll try to cover foreheads and chins, but like I'm not going to cover eyes or noses or mouths, but I don't have a lot of options. And sometimes there's a little bit of juggling you can do to kind of shift balloons in different panels, and it still work depending on the scene.
And don't you dare ask a writer to cut a single sentence. Also.
Yeah, well, if I know the writer, and if I'm friends with them, a lot of times I'll be like, look, what do you want me to do here? Because if you want to take another pass at it, that'll be easier. But yeah, usually you just got to figure it out.
And you're also like doing the balloons and the balloon shapes and stuff, and you get to have a lot of fun with that. And is it the tail? Is that the part of the balloon that points to the dude's mouth or lady? Ladies can talk in comics too.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Tails, and then connectors, or just like the tails for connecting balloons, stuff like that. Yeah, there's all kinds of funny names for them too.
Do you have names for the dots that are thinking bubbles?
Just like thought balloons, where it's like the rounded ones. They don't use them as much anymore. They've kind of become antiquated, and now a lot of times it's. But it depends on the book too. Sometimes people kind of want that throwback sort of vibe or whatever. But a lot of times,
poor Garfield. That's the only way he can get it.
Which I'm honestly fine. Like I hate doing thought balloons because you have to make so many. Like I work in Illustrator and it's all vector based. So if I'm making a balloon, I can stretch it small, whatever, and it's going to be fine and stay pretty consistent. And I work in a layer method with my balloons and tails and stuff. But yeah, thought balloons, you have to make tons of sizes of them, because the moment you scale it, it might have 5 ridges around it because it's small, but then it's massive. It looks completely different and weird. So they're kind of a pain. Now what most people do are like narrative sort of captions, and they just italicize the text.
Yeah, it's like when I'm sorry I keep going back to like, newspaper comics, but like Prince Valiant's narration with like it's in a block and it's got the big first letter and it's just describing what's happening. They'll use that for people's thoughts. It's considered to be a little hipper.
Good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, thought balloons are definitely like a little Garfield coded, which for me that's good, but not for everybody. Yeah. If you're trying to write something serious, like Watchmen, you don't have thought balloons in it.
Yeah, typically not as much.
The thing with lettering, and like I'm not reading as much comics as I used to, but I still try to keep up when I can, and it's something that you don't notice unless it's bad. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, there's one of the things at the studio that I work at. Darren Bennett has a studio called And World Design, and I'm the lead letterer and project manager over there. I've worked with Darren for years now. He's been my mentor since 2013, somewhere in there. And one of the things that at the studio, we push back against that idea a little bit, only in the sense that we want the lettering to stand out when it should. But otherwise, yeah, to your point, like it's sometimes people will kind of compare it to film editing, and that like if you fuck up the lettering and the reader is yanked out of the experience, it's similar. Like if there's break the 180 rule in a movie or whatever, to where there's something kind of off or you notice it and you're pulled out of it. If it's done well, you're just going with it. You're not necessarily noticing the lettering. So yeah, basically the thing I always try to do as well is kind of pretend, okay, if I'm lettering a book that Sean Gordon Murphy drew, I want the lettering, and I've lettered stuff for him. So if he's hiring me to letter it, I want to letter it in a way to where it's like, all right, if Sean could letter at a professional lettering level, and he probably could, I mean, he's super talented, but I want the lettering to look like that. So I'm going to pick a font that's going to look like something that's meshes with his art, his line work, the width of his lines, the weight, whatever else. Same thing for the stroke of the balloons. I don't want it to disappear entirely necessarily, but I want it to be of one piece with everything else. But then if and when there's, like an explosion on a highway, I'm trying to like describe a scene from one of these books I just worked on, but it's not announced, so I can't describe it too much. I want to find ways to not only make that explosion feel very impactful, but maybe there are ways I can mask it so that it's blended in with the explosion, or it's behind the art, or things to where you're not going to notice it. But if you do pay attention to the lettering, you might say, oh, it's cool how they incorporated that and blended it in a way that made it feel, or one of my favorite things to do now is add, one of my favorite things just currently is adding as much depth as I can. So like same issue that I just worked on, there was a shot of a character driving in the car, talking to someone in the passenger seat, and I have the tail going through the window. So like instead of just going over and doing a little burst, I have the tail going through, and then I masked it, and then I have the rest of it masked that part. So then there's a little bit of depth in the image to where it looks like it's interacting with the art in a way. And stuff like that like gets me really excited, to where it's like, okay, there's a way that I can add something to this. Because a lot of times with Clem Robbins, one of my favorite letters, he always talked about like the better that the comic is, the better the artwork is, the better my lettering looks. It just kind of enhances everything, which I've found to be the case as well. And so when there's something like that to where I can be like, oh, okay, I can add this thing and enhance it a little bit in my own way, because letters are kind of the unsung people of the team. And a lot of times, like, people usually forget that they're even a thing. They just assume that the artist does it or the writer does it or whoever else. And so being able to find those moments and opportunities when they happen is definitely one of my favorite parts of it.
I've got to ask, unless you had a follow-up, Adam, we're talking about fonts. So I'm not such a font guy, but people love fonts. Like, we did I was telling this story about a font that I love, Dove's Type, on the radio. And that day, like, we never had more calls on the radio show that I do in Joshua Tree than the day we were talking about fonts. And anytime we talk about fonts, people lose their mind. So, David, I was going to ask you what your favorite font is to work with, whether in professional capacity or like just in your day-to-day when you're just messing around with fonts.
Man, that's a good question. I'm so like, my brain is so wired now to, that was one of the things early on in my career where I was like, okay, I can look at Clem Robbins' work, I can look at Todd Klein, I can look at Tom Orzechowski, I can look at all these different, sort of legendary letters and see like they have a style. I got to figure out what my style is, and trying to figure out little weird things I could do with my lettering. And it was Darren, my mentor, who I mentioned earlier, who told me at one point, like, your style is to adapt to what the comic needs, what the art, whatever else. And the kind of thing that you're thinking about in that way will develop naturally over time. And so I kind of abandoned that idea. I think I've developed my own sort of little style. Probably looks a lot like Darren's, because I've modeled, tried to learn off of him. But that all to say, my brain definitely works in a way where I'm like, well, what's the thing that I'm doing? Then that's where my mind starts going to like, oh, I have these favorite fonts or whatever else. I've always liked Gill Sans for some reason. So like if it's just a basic thing, like if I'm, that will be one that I go to. I also always unfortunately remember too that I'm pretty sure that the dude who invented Gill Sans like was accused of having sex with a dog. Like there's like a weird piece of trivia with that font that I unfortunately also always think about. It might be wrong. I've read it more than once, so there's something to it, I think. I like Futura a lot, like those some of the classic ones. But in terms of comic book fonts, man, I like Blambot's fonts a lot. There's kind of two main huge font companies for comic book fonts, Comicraft and Blambot, Nate Picos's foundry. And I use a lot of Blambot fonts. I use a lot of Comicraft too. Just again, it kind of depends on what the book is and what it needs. But there's a sound effect. Okay, I'll pick this one. There's a sound effect font from Comicraft called I think it's called Stupid Head. There's also so many of these I have memorized, but I have the first 3 letters memorized so that I can type it into Illustrator and be like, that's the one I need. And so sometimes I don't remember the whole name, but I'm pretty sure it's Stupid Head. And it's like a real chunky, I'm a big Hellboy fan, and Clem Robins' work in Hellboy and kind of the entire Mignola universe or whatever. I would imagine, from what I remember, I'm pretty sure he kind of hand does his fonts or has in the past and has a digital bank of them. But Stupid Head in some ways reminds me of that, where it's kind of a real chunky, like you really think of Hellboy punching a Nazi robot with it. Like it's got that kind of vibe to it.
Adam, do you have a font, or do you have a love for fonts at all?
No, this is one area I've struggled with this. I mean, I've made many things that incorporate fonts, and people often tell me like you got to make better font choices, and I just don't know. My brain is kind of where I start to tap out creatively.
I will give a shout out. I listened this past week to your guys' episode on the Dill Burrito, which I really enjoyed, and also enjoyed all the newspaper stuff too, like the comic strips you guys were bringing up. I was like, oh shit, I used to read that one and this one. I was like saying out loud ones from that era that I remember too, and the font on the Dill Burrito. I remembered the packaging a little bit. And then as you guys were describing it, I was like, I'll look this up. And the font on there, that like, it's almost like Wingdings meets like a ransom note, just a truly horrendous.
Awful. Absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I don't know if we mentioned it in that episode, but I was putting together a resume for somebody, and it had like standard and bold and also italic. And she said, lose one of these, it looks like a hostage note. And I'm like, this is the same font. I think it's like, I think it was all Helvetica or whatever. And she's like, I cannot, it's too chaotic. Lose the italic. Which, do you know about Dove's type, David?
I don't think so. When you said that, it didn't ring a bell. I'll have to look it up.
So, I mean, I heard about it first from cartoonist Eddie Campbell. His daughter was writing for, I forget, she wrote the definitive story about it, Haley Campbell, who's in the Eddie Campbell comics. And it's like in the 1800s, mid-1800s, this British type foundry devised Dove's type, which at the time they said, this is the most beautiful font. And there's 2 guys made it. And one of the guys got paranoid, and he's like, our font should only be used for Bibles. Once we release it, I'm scared that it's going to be used for advertising, and that would be a disgrace to this beautiful, perfect font. So he took all of the like metal letter forms and like threw them into the Thames River. And in, I guess, like the 2000s, this guy like read about the font and saw some examples of the font. And he's like, I got to find this font. So he started going into the Thames. He started like calculating like, okay, this guy who was dumping these letter forms into the Thames, he lived here.
No way.
Work was here, and he was in ill health. So he wouldn't have like triangulated the points in the river where you would find him. And so he started finding these letter forms in the Thames like 150 years later.
No way.
And then he started like hiring professional mudlarkers and like scuba divers to go in and get the rest of them. And they have like recreated this Dove's type font.
That's insane.
And it's sensational. Like, I love it. I don't know what use I have for it. My partner got it for me for my birthday because she knows that I love talking about it and I love the story. And like, I was in London a couple months ago, and I'm like, I kept peeking out onto the Thames on the muddy banks where you can mudlark and see if I could find any fonts. But I'm a big Doves type fan, and I just need to find like the proper use for it, you know?
I will say too, and unfortunately I can't name it because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. And even if telling this little anecdote, it's so insane that this is like about a font, and it's something where I'm like, I got to be careful. One of my favorite fonts that I own is one that you gave me. You might know the one I'm talking about.
I think we can talk about it. Yeah.
You were, and I've never used it just because I'm like, there's no, I can't. Like, people will ID it or whatever. But it meant so much to me, just to both as like a connection to it for like specific reasons, like creative reasons. But yeah, that was awesome. When you sent me that, you were like, check this out. You're not gonna be able to use it, but here.
Yeah, we can talk about it. I did a some friends were like running David Lynch's film festival, and they hired somebody to do the like the wristbands, and they came out like you're supposed to have like layers so that you can send them to the printer, and I think it was like all like a flat file. So they, just knowing that I can do design, were like, can you just recreate this? And they sent me the David Lynch handwriting font, and can't use it commercially. Yeah. I shared it. I don't think I've shared it with anybody but you. And I still do my, like, if I'm printing out a like to-do list, I will do it in the David Lynch.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I guess I should start using it for stuff like that, just like personal things. Because Twin Peaks is my favorite TV show of all time. I love Lynch. I have a Twin Peaks tattoo. I've got literally a painting I had a friend do of David Lynch in my living room. Like, so yeah, when you sent that along, that blew my mind. I thought that was so cool.
I went into, we live in Joshua Tree. We're recording here in Joshua Tree, which is a couple hours outside of LA. And I went in to go see Firewalk with Me, and definitely like took some psychedelics and with like some new dads, and they did not have a good time watching Firewalk with Me as new dads on psychedelics.
Yeah.
Not a good dad movie.
No, a lot of Lynch's movies are not good dad movies. One of the first times I ever did edibles, I did too many, and I didn't realize that I had. And I hadn't even had enough experiences getting high to understand quite how high I was. And that week, I do a podcast about horror movies. And that week for the podcast, we were doing Eraserhead, and I had never seen it. And I was also a new dad. So a very similar thing. And that movie in particular is like about how terrifying it is to be a new dad. Like, that's a scary movie to watch sober as a new dad.
Yes.
And yeah, I had to rewatch that one later with fresh eyes.
I didn't watch Eraserhead until after David Lynch died, and I almost tapped out. I was like, I don't know if I can do it.
Oh yeah, it's rough. In a good way. I'm a fan.
So it might be time to dig into our some grocery store stuff. You're in Indiana, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Where in Indiana are you?
I'm like 30, 40 minutes outside Indianapolis. And I'm trying to think south. I'm horrible with direction. I'm not from Indiana. I've lived all over the place, as I mentioned. I don't know if it was caught at the beginning of the recording, but I was born in Wisconsin, and then lived there and in Michigan the first 9 years of my life. And then for kind of my upbringing, I lived in South America and Brazil. So that was where my head started going. Is like, what can I remember about grocery stores in Brazil that I might be able to bring to the show?
Before we even get there, what were like the Wisconsin, like what's your first memories of going to grocery store?
I'm trying to remember in Wisconsin what it would have been. Was Piggly Wiggly a thing there at the time? I think that could be just no, it was. I'm pretty sure it was. I think we had a Piggly Wiggly, and I don't know, man. I'm trying to remember now. I think like I definitely remember the like and I think they still have these, the like penny to ride the mechanical horse thing that they would have outside of the place. I remember always wanted to do that. And then I was big into and if I was with my grandparents, it was always an easier sell than with my parents. But I was big into like the vending machine with like the capsules, the plastic ones with the little toys that you pop the bottom part off. And so like that was, well, I take it back. There's one other big thing. Now all these memories are starting to come back. A big one was comics, but specifically because we didn't really have like spinner racks at our grocery stores, but there would be checkout aisle ones. And so that was when I got big into Archie, which at a weird age, like was definitely too young to be into the like the romantic misadventures of Archie Andrews and the other high schoolers or whatever. But my mom knew Archie, and so like there was a connection there. And
I'm gonna push back on you saying that Archie is like I think Archie is designed for like the youngest possible readers, right?
Okay, yeah. I mean, it worked for me. I was into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is romance and stuff, but you know, I guess Bazooka Joe's not doing that much smooching.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess now that you say that too, like they were like those digests too. So I mean, it would be a shitload of comics for not that much money, like $3-4 maybe. I mean, this would have been the early '90s, but and it would be like, you know, you might have a 6-page, you know, Archie, Betty, and Veronica story, and then it would be like a 1-page silent comic about Jughead like fighting with a cat over some fucking hamburgers or whatever. And it would be silent. It would just be sequential storytelling and like, so there was definitely a lot of, and then I think spinning off of that, like growing up in the '90s, there was also kind of a stretch there where we had like the Casper movie, the Richie Rich movie. And then even later on, like with some of the, even like the pulpy stuff, like we had the Shadow movie, the Phantom, like those kind of were on my radar because I think of like modern pop culture. So then going back and finding those, also they would do digests. So like you'd have a digest of Casper, but then like Wendy, the witch girl, would be in it, and the little demon kid, Red Hot, I think was his name. I don't remember, but like the Harvey Comics stuff.
Adam, did you ever read any of these little kid comics, like grocery store comics?
Archie, I never clicked with it.
Okay.
I wanted to, but it never, it made sense to me. I don't know. Yeah.
I might lose my comics bona fides. So, like, I have an affection for Archie. I've never was, like, a huge Archie reader, and I definitely know that, like, there are some better artists of Archie. There's some better stories. Like, Dan DeCarlo obviously kind of defined the house style over at Archie.
Yeah.
But there's, like, some guys who are, like, just kind of barely squeaking by in those Archie comics, but they've got dozens and dozens of decades of Archie stuff that they can collate into these big, thick, you know, cheap digest size volumes.
Yeah.
But is the Harvey stuff any good? Like, I've never really read any like Red Hot or Casper comics. Like,
I mean, my memory of it is that it was a similar sort of vibe where it was like, or if you read like, well, I shouldn't bring Nancy into it because I know there's much more of a reverence for Nancy comic.
I am a Nancy Reverer person.
Yeah. No, I am too. I like Nancy, and I like the new Olivia James stuff a lot too. But
they got a new I forget the name of the new artist.
There's a new person. That's right.
But it's the same writer.
Caroline Cash. No,
Okay.
she's
I see.
cartoonist. Because
She swapped out.
Oh, okay. Well, I like the previous one.
Yeah, Olivia James is
Yeah.
doing great.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, my memory is it was that. Funnily enough, my kid not too long ago, we were at a bookstore and he found a little. I loved that they did this, and it was even extra sad. I'm a huge, book nerd, so finding out here lately that they're kind of doing away with the trade paperback format, like they're not the biggest distributors done doing those, and it's probably just going to die out now. But there was a stretch there for a while. If I had to date it, I don't know, 60s through the 80s maybe, where they would do comics collections in a trade paperback format. And it's not formatted for it. Like, you can tell, like, I have an adaptation in here in my office somewhere of Empire Strikes Back as a comic, but it's in a trade paperback, like a book style. And there's like massive margins. Like, it's not the right dimensions. They just kind of shrunk it down. So anyway, my kid found a trade paperback book collection of Casper comics, and he was reading those, and they play to a 9-year-old in 2026. So, I mean, there's something to them, I guess. Yeah. But, yeah, they're pretty basic.
And everybody's talking about Devin Sawa. Maybe it's because we got the new Final Destination movie, but he played the hot Casper when Casper turns back into a dead boy.
Okay.
That was Devin Sawa.
Briefly, yeah. Dances with the girl.
Christina Ricci.
Yeah.
Christina Ricci.
But so you would go to like the grocery store with your parents and stuff? You would like help shop, or they'd just deposit you in front of the magazines?
No, I'd have to wait. So that would be the thing, is like they would keep us all, my younger sister and I, they would keep us together with them as we'd have to go through everything. And then that's what you would be kind of waiting for the entire trip, is like, all right, but you'd have to, especially if I was with one of my parents, you'd have to kind of time it and plan ahead, because once and again, having a kid now brings all this into focus where I'm like, oh, I totally get it, because I get that's the most stressful part for me as an adult if I have my kid in tow of like, okay, now I have to load up all these groceries onto the conveyor belt and talk to the person and and wrangle this 9-year-old or whatever. So I think as a kid, just intuitively, you kind of knew like, all right, I got to start eyeing what's here before I get up there so that I can pick my moment, because I can't ask too many questions. It's going to annoy them. There's too much chaos going on. So you had to pick your battles. But yeah.
And I know you said you were trying to dredge up some memories of it, but your time in Brazil, how were the grocery stores there?
The biggest thing I remember, so there were a lot of like a word I wouldn't have had back then that I know now, like sort of bodega style, like paderias, we called them, which were like, we called it bread store, but it'd be like a bakery. But it would also be kind of a convenience store, other stuff going on. And so there were a lot of those around. So if you just needed something fast, and I lived in a city called Recife, which has at the time had like 3.5 million people, pretty big city. And so a lot of times my mom's just sending us down to the corner padaria to get, bread, milk, whatever we need. But when we would go for our like bigger grocery trips, there was one in the mall called Bom Preço, which would be like good price, like I guess would be literally translated. The biggest memory I have from there more than anything is when you would go in, because it was attached to the mall. So if you were in the mall coming into the grocery store as opposed from the outside walking in through their entrance, if you had any bags, you'd have to take them up to this stand, and they had this machine that would take all your stuff, put it in a bigger bag, and then like essentially put like a metal zip tie on it to where it was completely sealed so that you couldn't add stuff to your bags and shoplift.
You wouldn't be able to go to Hot Topic and steal Jack Skellington or Nick Cap and put it in your eggs.
Exactly. So that was the biggest thing I remember, is like we would kind of plan that way. Like, well, let's go get our groceries first and take them to the car if we're going to go somewhere else. Because that was always a pain. You'd have to zip tie all of the stuff that you've been carrying around.
I don't know if that's unique to, well, I've experienced the grocery store that's like in the mall in Australia. Mm-hmm. My partner is Australian, and every time I'm there, like, I'm always like, why are we going to like this weird mall right now? Like, it's 9 a.m. and none of this shit is open. I'm like, oh no, that's where the grocery store is. And like, we're going to cut through the mall because you got to go from the subterranean parking lot up through the mall and then get to, the grocery store in Australia. I'm blanking on all the names, but that's always like a weird thing. And there's some in LA, there's like some I don't know if they're Korean or Japanese.
The Korean in
the downtown.
Oh no, yeah, that's Japanese. Okay. Yeah, Little Tokyo, yeah.
But there's definitely like the Asian grocery store that's also in the mall.
Okay.
There's a Chinese market in like San Gabriel Valley that I hit.
Yeah, in San Gabriel Valley, there's
we got to like walk through like weird stalls of guys with stuff.
I've never considered that but now that you mention it, when I was in Germany last year and we went to get groceries there, the main grocery store was also in a mall, and like the second floor too. Like it was,
when I was in Germany with Hank, also in the mall.
All right.
Yeah.
How did you find German? We've done a lot of episodes about German grocery stores, actually.
Oh, really?
Find those, yeah.
I loved it. I have a couple of very good friends there. One of the two co-hosts that I do the horror podcast with is one's in Germany, one's in England, and then I'm here, obviously. So it's called Erie International, as a throwback to Erie, Indiana. And I went there 9 years ago, close to 10 years ago for the first time, and just loved kind of everything about it. The culture, the architecture, like having grown up in Brazil, I've been to other South American, Central American sort of countries, and like, they're not all the same. I'm not saying that, but there's a similar vibe, and with architecture and different things that have kind of blended over and carried over and been influenced, whatever else. So being able to go to Europe for the first time, and specifically Germany, that was awesome for me, where I was like, everything looks different. I've never seen like these, styles or whatever else. It was a little jarring for me both times going, because I'm still fluent in Portuguese and it's a Romance language. So wouldn't say I'm fluent in Spanish, but I can get by. If I'm somewhere that they speak Spanish, I can figure it out fine. And then because it's a Romance language, like I can usually understand Italian pretty well. Like some of the other ones, I can pick stuff out. German, fucking nothing. Like I can't understand anything. I can't pick out grammar. Like there's nothing. So there's a little bit of intimidation when I'm over there to where I'm just like, usually I feel so prepared being a bilingual guy. And in Germany, I'm like, I have nothing that's helping me here. I'm constantly having to ask them, like, I don't know what he said. I'm sorry. But yeah.
Did you manage when you were there, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, most people spoke English, but every now and then you'd be in a situation with like a train sign or something like that would be really confusing, and you'd have to. But with phones and stuff, I could figure it out. But yeah.
I mean, I want to get back to the grocery store real quick. I was, so we did a trip a couple months ago where we were in Paris for 10 days and then we visited my sister in London, and I had never been to London before. And it was a very chaotic night, our first night in London, and we couldn't get into the restaurant we wanted to go to. When you're in Paris, they're a little dismissive when they find out that you're American. Like, I don't speak any French. My partner speaks a little French. And when she tries to speak French with them, we'll just speak English. And like, I remember going to lunch by myself and I'm like, any English? And he's like, but of course, they're nice about it. But I feel like a little bit of a jerk. So we went to this like a bad Portuguese restaurant in London. And I was like, fresh out of Paris, where I'm really trying to speak French in Paris, and I tried to pronounce the dishes on the menu the correct way, and the waiter like looked at me like I was a huge dick, and like it's like, you just say it like the normal way. He actually did say that. And then we all were shocked. We were like, we can't believe this guy was such a dick. I'm trying to just pronounce stuff. And he came back and our friend said, hey, are you okay? And he said no, and he put his head down on our table and like almost started crying.
Oh, wow.
Just wait, because he was going through something?
He said it was a bad day at the restaurant, and that's why he was the kind of a dick to me for trying to speak correctly.
All right.
Wow. That's crazy.
But David, was it much of a culture shock going from like at 9, going from American grocery stores to Brazilian, and then when did you come back from Brazil? I mean, that same return to America, what was the culture shock like?
It was less of a shock for me because I was not, the week I turned 9 was the week we moved to Brazil. So I'd had some time here. For my sisters, it was much more of a culture shock. I have a younger sister that's 3 years younger, and then another one that's 7 years younger. And for the one that's 7 years younger, for her especially, it was very strange, kind of bouncing back. And we were there for 4 years, then we came back for a year. And that was in like I know exactly when it was because we were here for 9/11. So it was 2000 to 2001, and then went back for another. My parents were missionaries at the time, so it was like another term of 3 years. So we were there like 7-8 years altogether. The biggest stuff that I remember in terms of like the differences are like milk was a big one. So like, I'm trying to remember what it is that they don't do in Brazil. Pasteurize it, maybe. There's some process that we do with milk here that they don't do there. So when you buy milk,
homogenization,
maybe it's that.
Okay.
Where when you buy milk there, it's on a shelf. It's not refrigerated. And it's like you buy like a case of it that will have like 12 and they're boxes. So it's like very sort of almost looks like if you buy a box of broth, you know how those are in those like kind of. So it's that, but it's milk. And it had like a sweet taste to it. It was awful. I was talking to somebody about it the other day. Like, I have memories of as a kid wanting to have like Frosted Flakes or something in the morning for breakfast and realizing that whoever used the last milk that was in the fridge didn't replace it with a new milk. And so you'd have to go get a warm milk out of the pantry. And it's Brazil, so it's fucking hot everywhere. And remembering putting a couple of ice cubes in my Frosted Flakes with my milk and so just to have like a little bit of coldness because like I didn't want to have warm milk with my Frosted Flakes, and it sucked. But like I have such a weird like sense memory with that still, and then little different things here and there.
It's really rough. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like,
it wasn't
ice in
the best.
Yeah, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, and then beyond that, it mostly would have been like, I don't know, that my dad especially, both my parents, but my dad especially would always kind of worry with my sisters and I as we got older of like, really hope that we didn't like ruin your guys' childhoods by making you grow up in this other country and go through these experiences or whatever. And we always told them the same thing, which is like, it's not like you gave us a childhood here in America and then this one to compare the two. Like, it was just how we grew up. There was so a lot of the stuff for me is just thinking back, like, I remember seeing this the first time I saw a Daft Punk CD, it was at a checkout line in that Bom Preço thing. It's like that doesn't have anything to do with Brazil, but it's just like my childhood stuff or whatever. It's kind of connected to that.
We didn't have CDs in the grocery store when we were growing up in U.S. America, so
yeah, maybe that is-
Actually, that's not true.
did we have CDs?
There would be like Ricky Martin. There would be like the biggest pops things you could imagine.
I don't know if I remember that. I mean, I remember that at like Starbucks, and I bought my Daft Punk CDs at Target. Back in the
I
day.
stand by. I mean,
okay.
a memory. I mean, maybe I'm crossing wires, but I stand by that. Like whatever the Madonna, whatever the hugest 10 CDs are, they would have a small
right at the grocery store. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
How did Archie speak Portuguese in Brazil?
I don't think they had. I'm trying to remember if there was Archie. There was a very popular strip. I was just thinking about this the other day called Turma de Mônica. Yeah, which is like Monica's gang. I think the guy was named Mauricio de Souza, maybe. I can't remember his name for sure. A friend of mine worked at a hotel. A friend of my family's worked at a hotel, and that dude stopped there one time. And the family friend knew I was a fan and had him do a sketch for me that I had framed in my room growing up, which would have been massive. It would have been like Brazil's, I don't know, Jim Davis or Charles Schultz, maybe, like huge. And that was everywhere. So all the it was a bit similar, not exactly the same as Archie because these kids were younger, but similar in the sense that it was like, there was one kid who was essentially like Pigpen kind of, where he would never shower. There was one of the kids was named Cebolinha, which means little onion. And basically, I think it was just because his head was kind of shaped like an onion and he had 3 little hairs on the top of his head. And then they would go on. And it was very similar to Archie and some of those others in the sense that like they could kind of apply it to whatever sort of genre story they were telling at the time. But then it was so massive and huge. I'm pretty sure there's a theme park, maybe more than one that's based around it there. But it was so huge that it would be like on the cookies that you would buy and like the tie-in stuff, movies, like it was massive. So Archie might have existed, but they had kind of their own that I think were so huge.
Yeah, they really Monica and the gang really like put it to Archie and the
yeah,
no
question,
especially in Brazil.
Yeah.
What's your shopping looking like these days? So how often are you shopping, and like where are you shopping for groceries right now?
I go to a place called, this is a weird thing for me, it's a grocery store chain called Payless, which I want to say is part of Kroger. I think they're like an offshoot or something. So I live in, I won't say exactly where I live, but I live in a very, you'll see a lot of towns like this in Indiana that are very small and kind of Scooby-Doo ghost town, sort of dying. Likely their economy of like revolved around something that now doesn't exist, usually a factory. So it'll be a factory that was the center of the economy for years. In my town, this might be being a little bit too specific, but it was a mall. There was a huge mall in town. And now when you drive by that mall, it looks like fucking The Last of Us, or like there's just stuff growing up everywhere around it and looks crazy. And then there's like tons of buildings and stuff that similar, where it's like, oh, that clearly used to be a Texas Roadhouse, but now like the windows are knocked out and there's bushes growing up everywhere. So Payless, I think, is kind of, I don't know this for a fact, I feel like I've noticed them being like in lower income places. So I don't know if it's connected to that, because we have Kroger's and stuff too, but it's especially weird for me because Payless for me growing up was a shoe store. Like
we've got those Paylesses out.
Yeah, and they did not have them here. I brought that up to people in Indiana, and they never know what I'm talking about. So
interesting.
To everyone here, Payless is just a grocery store, but every time I go there, without fail, I'm like, Payless shoes. That's all I think about.
But when I'm really interested, I didn't know that this was like a common thing in Indiana, the ghost town kind of thing. But like,
yeah,
are like people like moving and leaving, or like it's just I'm trying to picture it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like necessarily the most qualified person to talk about it, other than just, subjective kind of living here type of deal. I think at least in the town I live in, a lot of people have lived here their whole lives. Pretty, in a lot of cases, like pretty low income, or they're just kind of finding what they can. Again, like and this town in particular, there was a mall. The mall that was here was, somebody told me not too long ago, it was like I forget what it was, but when malls first started becoming a thing back in the 70s, 80s, whenever, there was kind of one family. I don't know if they started it in America or were responsible, owned a lot of them. And this was like one of the original ones. So it had been here for decades and decades and decades. And I don't know exactly when it closed. I know I saw Terminator Salvation there in college. So it was here, long enough that as an adult, I ended up seeing it or being over there when it was open. But yeah, like you'll notice, I'm trying to like not name specific towns, but I've talked to friends that live in similar ones where it's the exact same story. Like there was a Chrysler factory or a automotive something that was there. It's shut down, and now the town is just kind of struggling to hang in there and figure out what they're going to do. So there will be lots of liquor stores, usually lots of smoke shops, usually. Lots of churches, which might just be a Midwest thing. And yeah, I think people tend to move closer to Indianapolis. There's a lot of towns around Indianapolis that have started to really kind of grow and flourish now. So that might be part of it too. But there's also just a lot of people that commute, I think, and live here. I mean, I don't love where I live. I moved here maybe 4 years ago, and but it's really cheap. It's really quiet. It's really safe. And so for me, being self-employed, working in comics, single dad, like I can't complain too much, but it's also a thing with my son, that whenever I can go to a convention, I take him with me. Vacation, we go places just to kind of show him like, look, there's other places. Like you don't have to be boxed in here. Don't feel stuck here. But also kind of remembering like, all right, this is his hometown. This is where he's growing up. So I'll make the best of it and everything else. But so yeah, it's not the worst place to live necessarily, but I have noticed it's definitely becoming or has been for a while now, a trend. And I don't know, I've thought about this exact phenomena too, of like, have there been other Indiana towns that have bounced back from this, or have they just kind of, little by little, inch by inch, died out until there's nothing there anymore? I don't know.
I don't like, so Adam he just moved out to Joshua Tree in the last 6 months. Would you say? About that. And I've been out here for like 8 years, and like, it's weird because it's a tourist town, and like we do have stuff, but like since I've been in here, like the Denny's and the Sizzlers have closed, and I'm like, oh, if a Denny's and a Sizzler can't make it in like,
right,
a small town, like what's going on out here?
Right.
Like, I don't think it's not like how you're describing your town, but we got a lot of money coming in and out, and there's like definitely higher end stores, but just when the Sizzler closed, I was like, that should set off some alarm bells for me.
Yeah, and also like lower income stuff. Like I didn't know this until, I say relatively recently. I forget how many years ago now, but like Dollar Tree. I don't know if Dollar General is the same way, but like Dollar General, Dollar Tree, where once you kind of find out what their business model is, it's very predatory. Like they set up shop in places where people are low income, and it's specifically also designed. They're not necessarily saving money. Like it's made to look this way. There's probably 4 Dollar Generals in this town, 5 maybe. So I mean, it's that kind of a vibe to where it's dying out, and you feel bad when new like mom and pop type places open, because it's just like how there's a place. Getting more and more specific about the town I'm not naming. There's a place not far from me that opened up last summer. And they are like a vintage throwback VHS tapes, comics, wrestling memorabilia, like tons of cool stuff. But also the first time I went in there, it was just like, man, this place would struggle in Indianapolis, like in, a bigger town in Indiana. Like, how long is it going to last here? Like it. So unless it's like a sure thing, I think, again, that's why there's so many, smoke shops and liquor stores and stuff too, because those will stay in business. But yeah.
The smoke shop
pressing turn.
The smoke shop one is an interesting one because like it must just be real high margin because they are everywhere.
Yeah. Well, as we were talking about,
yeah.
But just for the record, David, all of our episodes get super depressing.
Okay.
Yeah, we talk about yeah.
But I think like with the smoke shop thing in particular, like they're selling like, I don't know what's going on with smoke shops. Like I joke about Kratom a lot, and a lot of people are buying Kratom, but like you can go and buy the like the gas canisters, like nitrous oxide canisters, and like fake psychedelic mushrooms.
Right.
I was in a smoke shop recently, and they had like, they're not just selling like lean, which is like cough syrup, but they had like a giant inflatable bottle of cough syrup that there was advertising. Hey, we sell cough syrup here. You could just like get a thing that's called lean. Or
Yeah, but it's
wild.
not. It's like ashwagandha and like it's like whatever the
I know it's all like bootleg.
whatever the
stuff.
most legal version of something that could relax you is basically what it is.
The big thing here is Delta 8, where it's like they have that's like the huge, because weed's not legalized in Indiana, so it's tons of Delta 8, but it'll be signs on the outside that'll be like THC. It'll have all these things where it's like kind of technically, but not really. And man, I have not been able to tell this story anywhere. It's kind of relevant. I'll make it fast. I was pumping gas the other day, and I saw a QR code. I'm trying to remember what the symbol was. Maybe it was a joint or something. It was clearly like weed coded. And I scanned it, and it was like a kind of like underground bootleg website for ordering weed, like locally. I'd never seen anything like that before around here or whatever, but it was like a sticker. Like usually they'll have like Joe Biden stickers or whatever on the pump, like at least around here. And yeah, it was this like, it was clearly not a real business. Like there was not like a thing anywhere that you could link to, but somebody was like on the DL selling stuff, I guess through gas station QR codes. But
Cool.
I
So
thought
it's
it was
like,
kind of cool.
it wasn't just like, it was like somebody like, you know, kind of guerrilla marketing, like putting okay. I did learn a little bit about this, and this is a perfect segue into our topic today, which is the UPC code.
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, QR codes are kind of like a little bit of the next step of barcodes in a way, and like they might be moving in that direction without jumping ahead too much. But like I do a radio show here in Joshua Tree, and my co-host was talking. He watched the Super Bowl yesterday. We're dating the episode. Yesterday was the Super Bowl, and there was like an ad with a QR code from Lay's potato chips, and he just was like, okay, whatever, I'll just like scan my phone.
He actually scanned it. I was just going to say nobody's going to actually
He
scan
did it, and I guess like they're sending him a free bag of fresh Lay's potato chips,
fresh meaning
like
Fresh,
recently made.
Okay.
And like last year, Kanye West did that one where it was like if you did the QR code, you just went to the swastika shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy the
Swastika
Kanye West swastika shirt.
Nazi website. Yeah.
But I'm just shocked that people are just. And David, I'm just. I don't think you should be scanning QR codes.
I probably should.
Well,
I probably shouldn't have.
There's nothing. It can't like download a.
It can
virus
send it to like a website. Like I was reading about the UPCs today. They were saying like if you scan a QR code, you don't know what website it's going to take you to, and it could have like malware or you know. I'm sounding like 100 years old. They got the malware on the website now.
I'm saying I think it's fine. I mean, you have to click like yes, I want to download. Your phone has protection from. Yeah, I think it's fine. Check it out. Scan it.
If it would have just been a QR code, I don't think I would have scanned it. But I'm trying to remember what it was a while ago now. It would have been probably a few months ago. That's why I can't nail it down. But there was some symbol or something to where I was like, okay, there's a message being sent here of like what this in this general area without text that had me intrigued. But you know that also doesn't excuse the fact that it could have been a trick to get me to go to something illegal or whatever else. So.
But a weed store that also makes like a scavenger hunt kind of like, you know, Blair Witch Project kind of game for people. That sounds fun.
I would fuck with that. I don't really do much of the weed these days, but
there was part of me that wanted to order something because I was caught up in that thing of like, this is awesome. Like somebody made this thing and is putting up stickers or whatever else. But then there was also part of me that was like, I'm not ordering anything off of here, giving them my information. Like, what if this is like, that's where my mind did start to work, where it was like, what if this is, I don't think the local cops would be that tech savvy, but what if there's something afoot here? What if this is a trick?
In LA, we had that we still have it for mushrooms. You know about that?
I don't think I do.
There's like fairly popular, but they're way more brazen about it. They're just on Instagram and stuff. It'll be, and there's delivery too. It'll be like mush girls, you know, and then they just deliver mushrooms to your house.
I mean, is that the synthetic stuff? I mean, we're talking about head shop things.
This is mushrooms, but it's like so decriminalized to some degree, to whatever degree that they just get away with it.
All right. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so we're talking about QR codes, and it's the perfect time to get into UPC. David, I kind of gave you some topics, and you said, did you say UPC? Of course.
I said I got to go with UPC. I think.
Okay. I mean, I maybe pitched this a little bit to you, knowing that you're a letterer and a designer. Like, when you see a UPC code, like, what is that? How does it look from a design standpoint? How does it look from like a lettering and a standpoint? Like,
No,
what's your thoughts?
That's exactly why I said I got to go with UPC. I think, and there's still and I specifically didn't look up anything today. You said we do the research, just show up. I was like, all right, cool. Which is not my normal speed. If I'm going on a podcast, even just if I'm going somewhere to hang out and there's a topic or whatever, like an event or something, I'm the kind of guy that's like on Wikipedia and looking stuff up and just let me get some general information about this. Like I like nerding out about stuff. So I've never really looked into how they work. So there's still an air of mystery to me about UPC codes, because the fact that they are just lines and of varying widths. I mean, there's a uniform height, obviously, or there usually is, but even that can be fucked with. Like, that's one of the things I think is only enhanced my interest in the mystery around them, is because I end up interacting with them a lot. That's the other aspect of lettering and design that comes into play, depending on how far you go. If you're doing a comic for DC, like, you're turning in your lettering files, and then they have in-house people that are putting everything together, and production people or whatever else. But I just did a book for Image called The Unchosen for my friend Dave Marquez, and I put together every single issue. I did the trade design, the backup stuff, the ads. Like, Image had ads, but I added them in there, and then UPC codes and all that kind of stuff. And so on projects like that, they're handing me the UPC code, and then I have to then set it up in a way that makes sense in the design and everything else. They usually don't have anything behind them. So, like, we typically think of them as seen as like a white square with the UPC code. Like, the UPC code is just the black part. So the white, it can be over anything as long as it can be scanned, and it can be stretched, manipulated, everything else. It's still, again, I'm sure there's an easy answer because we've had them forever, but I've never looked it up. And so it is just bewildering to me that we use a laser that looks at these weird lines. And then it's like, Archie Digest 67, whatever, like, and then just growing up in retail jobs, I worked at a lot of video stores growing up. And so memories of having to do like inventory and shit like that, where you'd be there all night scanning stuff, and you're short 2 packets of M&Ms, or when you got to figure out if somebody steal them or they're in the store somewhere. Like, just the idea of like how we assign them and enter them in, there's so many of them, and the fact that I don't know, there's something about the mystery that captures my imagination.
I didn't know too much about them. So when we do like some of our episodes and we dig into like research on like, when was the first like self-checkout, or like who introduced the freezer? It's not always like, you don't always get the definitive answer. We were like doing protein powder recently, and we're like, there's no definitive answer. But with the UPC code, it's like, it's extremely well documented. It is like one of the best documented topics I think we've really covered on this show.
Yeah. There's no ambiguity.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I mean, comic books, and not to talk too much about comic books on the grocery store show, but like, very iconic little box where they would always put the UPC code on the comic book cover, because you would get them at grocery stores. And when they started selling them at comic book shops, they didn't need the UPC code. Mm-hmm. So they started doing like little like drawings of like, it's all the Avengers, or like Spider-Man like jumping around in there.
Corner box, yeah.
Yeah, it's like kind of a really significant part of like comics design, like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, for sure. But do we want to start at the beginning of barcodes? Like, should we dig in?
Should we talk about how they work? Because
how do they work?
So on either side there are longer lines, two longer lines, and then in the middle there's also two lines. Those orient the laser. Those tell the laser where the parameters are.
Because they wanted to design it in a way where like you could scan it. Like the purpose of it is efficiency, right?
Yeah.
So they're saying like, it's no one's gonna like look at the box of Fig Newtons and like orient it and then scan it the certain way. They're like, I see where the barcode is. I'm just gonna run it through the lasers. So like those outer lines do the orientation, right?
Yeah, they totally.
If it's upside down or diagonal, no matter, it's going to click. Okay.
Right. This is the plane that we are reading. And then within that, there are 12, I believe, spaces where they can be 4 things. They could be white, or basically there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that could be either white or black. So that's how you're going to get one big bar or all white with a little bar or something like that. And then it just scans every 4 along there, and that gives it the number.
And I was reading this thing where it says like, so it's like obviously UPC codes are going to be a little different, but generally it's like, it's the name of the company and then the name of the product. And then is there like a repeating component? Is the second half like a repeat of the first? Something about that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay.
I don't know. But the beginning is like, Nabisco has its own first, prefix of the first half. But then the specific thing is the second half. But I don't know about the repeating.
Thanks for rolling with me on the Fig Newtons thing also. One of the worst candy. I don't know if my boss is still here at the radio station. I got in trouble for talking shit on Chips Ahoy on the radio the other time. One of the worst cookies around.
Yeah, they're not good. They're not good.
Fucking sucks. But so like I was looking at some of like the design stuff, and when you're talking about fonts or like working in Illustrator where like you can make a line and you can increase the stroke of the line so that it's like it goes from like 0.1 to 0.2, or I guess 1 point to 2 point, or 1.5 point. And a lot of the UPC code like lines are very much like we're just kind of increasing it, we're just doubling it, and like I had a lot of Illustrator flashbacks for when I was using Illustrator a lot, looking at like how UPC codes are made specifically.
Oh yeah.
But did you get the font? Did you find out what the font was?
No, I didn't get that. I didn't get that. No.
Yeah. We're gonna get into the adventure, but it was like, and it's an extremely designed project, and he's like this guy picked the font and designed like the look of it, and there is wiggle room as far as like how the shape of the UPC code is, but those are the essential components, right?
There isn't really all that much wiggle room. You can play with the top, or you can play with the edges that the laser's not going to scan. Okay, but within the thing, like
it needs to be those. It needs to be very specific to like the 14 lines. Was it?
Yeah, 15 total. But I think the markers that are like orient you are some of them.
Okay,
but, yeah.
So where do we want to start?
Yeah, we start at the beginning.
I mean, people were saying that there was the idea for stuff like this, like kind of going back in like to the 40s. Do we want to go back that far?
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll say is that the largest National Cash Register Company, founded in 1884, popularized and mass-produced the mechanical cash register.
Okay.
And they were founded in Dayton, Ohio, which is also where the UPC Council was found. So they were a big, IBM invented it, but it's directly supermarket. Like this is a 100% supermarket invention that then went on to everywhere else. So it's a good topic for us to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
So 1800s is like when they were really like
no. That's when the cash register. But then the cash register led the cash register made the first laser that then scanned the first UPC.
All right.
Yeah.
They're talking about Did you see the bullseye? I know you presented a few of the original UPC codes, because it wasn't that initial like rectangle one that we were talking about. There was like. The earliest one I saw was like a bullseye version. Is that?
Yeah. DC, can you see this? Oh, wait 1 second. Okay. Now, can you see that?
Oh shit! Yeah. Now I can.
Okay. Yeah. So you can see that these were separate. So UPC was made. It was invented by IBM, but it was made by basically a conglomerate of of companies that all wanted to get together to make this open standard that could go everywhere. And so you can see IBM had the one that won, but there were other people that had their own designs to try to.
Man, some of these are awesome. That Litton
Does
one?
everybody have?
Which one?
The top left, is it Litton? I'm trying to think.
Litton. Yeah.
Man, that
Litton.
one's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Is that your favorite, David?
Litton, I like the RCA one too. I'm a big like minimalist, clean line kind of guy, so there is something charming about the Singer one. But I think because the lines are horizontal instead of vertical, it messes with my head too much to where it doesn't look like a UPC anymore. I don't know. I do like it though. But yeah, maybe the Litton one. There's something about the dot and then the arc over it.
I know. I want to describe a few of these very quickly.
Sure.
But, the Litton one, it almost looks like a 70s show's like Rainbow. Like did maybe like if a TV network had a Rainbow logo with
A morning show.
Yeah. I love the scanner one, which is like numbers, and it looks very like Logan's Run kind of font.
I like that one too.
It's almost
Brazil.
a ass font.
Yeah.
Like the 4's got like 3 prongs in it instead of 2. Everything's like doubled up in a weird way, but I mean, as far as novelty goes, the scanner one I think would be my pick.
Yeah, I mean that's a perfect sci-fi kind of logo. They should use that for any sci-fi title. Yeah.
Adam, a favorite?
Honestly, I think I like this Karagon in the middle. It kind of looks like a painting or something like that, a piece of artwork. I like it.
I mean, it looks like if you're going to have like if Batman's going to punch a guy and it's going to say bit, it's like a starburst kind of pattern.
Yeah.
Emanating outwards. What all of these have in common is like that kind of like alternating line pattern where it is like thick lines, thin lines, and the negative space in them all matters in a very significant way. I mean, that's what the laser's reading essentially.
So that's what I was going to ask. So is the tech is consistent with each of these? It was just them pitching what they want their like design of it to be, but the actual. Okay.
No, I think that the reason why IBM won is because so many of these other ones needed to be, the right angle.
Got it.
Whereas IBM, it could be a lot of, you just get it flat and you scanned it.
I mean, I think, especially looking at some of the more circular ones, that is an elegant solution to like, how do you get it where you have to scan it a certain way? And it's like, if it's all just circular, like theoretically any way you scan it is going to have like that kind of like, diameter read on it, like you can't scan concentric circles in a way that's like, oh, I did it backwards.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think, anyway, we're getting real in the weeds. I think the RCA one and the Litton one, you could scan a lot of different ways. These ones down here, I suppose that one right here and this one, you'd have to be real precise with the angle of your scanner. Anyway.
But so these are the IBM one, which is the kind of common one we're using. Am I jumping ahead?
No, yeah, go.
Okay. Comes around February of 1971. Like, I think they started working on it in 69, and by 71, they kind of started devising what we know today to be the UPC code, the barcode, which kind of, it wasn't immediately recognized as the standard. Am I remembering that correctly? But it was the most, like, it was the smallest of all of these. Like, it took up the least space on the package, easiest to scan, and that's kind of why it came out. Is that correct?
So they formed something called the Ad Hoc Committee. That's what they called it. And it was a number of industry representatives that all sort of got together. And the IBM one won, which we just saw. But when they were building it, they believed sort of that they were onto something. Everybody was really excited, like this is going to be a big deal kind of a thing. But they also said that they believed that there would be fewer than 10,000 companies, almost all in the U.S. grocery industry, who would ever use the UPC. So they never foresaw it being as huge as it actually was.
And I think the first one that they instituted, like they did an event where they said, we're going to go scan the first UPC code at like, ooh, I don't know if I have that in front of me, but.
I do.
Oh, yeah. Where was it?
It was in Dayton, Ohio, which is where, and it was Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Gum. Oh, no, Troy, Ohio. Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Gum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do they still make that gum? That's one of the worst gums, right?
Yeah, they still make that.
Oh, I loved Juicy Fruit growing up. That was one of my favorite ones. It loses its flavor after about 15 seconds, though. Yeah.
It's good. That for first 15 seconds.
Great.
Right.
That was the preferred, when you had the gum thing that would like be a mouse trap on the gum stick, where you pull out the gum stick and the strap slams on your finger. Always Juicy Fruit, and I really respect that. So I'm like, I think I have an aversion to Juicy Fruit because I don't like my thumb being snapped up by a mouse trap. So part of the development of the UPC code was developing the laser that would scan the UPC code, and it's like a very low, I don't know what's the unit of measurement for laser, but low wattage, and lawyers would not sign off on letting them like start installing guns with lasers, like literal laser guns into grocery stores all over the country. So despite like the wattage being lower than light bulbs, that made the dude, was it Reese's Monkeys? He like bought a bunch of monkeys from Africa and they mailed him monkeys, and then he like tested the lasers on these monkeys' eyes. And you know, as I'm getting older, I like hate that more and more and more. Like definitely Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys, like get them all out, and maybe we'll have a 28 Days Later situation, but don't shoot a monkey in the eye with a laser gun.
So I got to talk about something kind of dark,
Okay.
but also my family history. My dad was in the Navy in the 60s, and he patented laser technology that he would shoot into monkeys' eyes.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What was the purpose?
This
UPC code?
I mean, no, it
Okay.
was to I mean, it was probably for military shit, but it was to test like the extent that lasers could fuck up an eye and you know, all sorts of medical shit.
This is for real?
This is real.
I never in my life have I ever encountered a coincidence that specific.
Yeah, I know. I almost didn't even say it because it's sort of embarrassing. I'm vegan, so yeah.
That might be part of the reason why you.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Look, you know, if it's was it one of the good wars, or which war was it?
Vietnam. It was pre-Vietnam, but it was right around that time. But yeah,
We'll really
And that's
wait on
wild.
the goodness of that.
no, it was not good. Vietnam was a bad one, canonically. Yeah.
I mean, maybe like what did so I read that they donated. He's like, I got all these monkeys now. He like had to sign off on. We like adopted a bunch of monkeys from Africa, and he's like, what the fuck do I do with these monkeys that I didn't blind? They can still see.
Yeah.
I think he sent them to a zoo, which is nice. You know, I think zoos are full of discarded test animals.
Laser.
Did your dad ever talk about this at all?
I mean, I don't think they cared about what were going to happen with them.
Okay, set him on the side of the road and give him a pack of cigarettes and let him hitchhike.
Yeah.
Yikes. Look, my dad's maybe not done some of the best stuff professionally as well, but we can talk about that another day.
Yep.
Not related to monkeys and lasers and eyeballs. I was very interested. So who's the organization that kind of oversees the quality of UPC codes these days? It's the GS1,
Yeah.
and they are based in Brussels.
Right.
So it's like, it feels like they moved. When did they move from Dayton? Or like when did the Dayton people like kind of not lose control, but
2005 is when they went from, what were they? I got it somewhere, but the UCC or something like that to the RC1 that you're saying. So that probably was it. Because it was supposed to just be a U.S. grocery thing, and then it became worldwide for everything we touch. So yeah.
But yeah, well, I mean, it totally exploded. Everything has a UPC code on it now. Like,
Yeah.
every grocery item conceivable has it. It's more of a shock when it doesn't. Like they're even taking the little stickers and putting them on like the apple or the peach or whatever, so that they've got like a little scanning zone. I mean, where do we land? Do we think that this is like a nice thing for the world? Like, do we want everything to be tracked in such a way?
So I'll say that before the UPC codes became ubiquitous, there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of very vocal pushback, and the unions, of course, were justifiably pushing back about the potential labor that could have been lost by this automation that was coming.
And it very much is automation. It's like, hey, people used to have to punch in the cost of the apple. You'd like weigh it, or if it was the Nabisco Fig Newtons, like, oh, this is like $2.99. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, it is.
Yeah.
This is like a very, early trend in the current digital automation that we are now like immersed in. But there was also a consumer advocacy group that got a lot of traction, but also had a lot of were treated like Karens, basically, and a lot of sexist stuff was thrown their way, and they were basically talking about a lot of the stuff that we're currently dealing with. One of the things that they were mad about legitimately was that pricing wouldn't be on the product anymore. Pricing was going to be on the shelf now, which basically also introduced dynamic pricing, which is something that we are now also currently fighting quite a bit. So they were right to predict that. Yeah.
Some of the pushback that I think is very fun, I guess, is a lot of religious people thought that the barcode was literally the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
Like,
as soon as you said religious, I was like, growing up in a missionary pastor family, I was like, it's a mark of the beast thing, I bet.
Were y'all allowed to buy Archie comics if they had the barcode on them, or did you have to get them from the vendor?
Had to tear that part off, have them look it up in a price list. No, but I remember that being a thing where people would talk about like, oh, well, eventually when the Antichrist shows up and after the rapture happens, so, we won't have to worry. We won't be here as Christians. We'll be gone. But eventually that will be a thing. And you'll have people will have a barcode like, tattooed on them or whatever that they'll scan for everything. And there will be a global currency and all that kind of, wacky shit. Some of that might be straight out of Revelations. But a lot of it, I think, too, is, them interpolating. I remember a lot of time people being like, oh, in Revelations, they talk about these dragonflies that are in the sky, and at church people being like, oh, those are helicopters, that's what that means or whatever. And there's a lot of that stuff going on. But that was the barcode thing.
Right. They just say the mark of the beast, so then it's up to you to figure out
exactly
what that means. So a lot of what I found a really good book. It's called Barcode by Jordan Firth, and it's about the history of what we're talking about. So he found a 1975 article that he believes was kind of the epicenter of this by a publication, Gospel Call, which said the mark of the beast, quote, could look like the strange marking on packages at supermarkets, and warned that these strange markings will eventually be, quote, laser tattooed on the forehead or the back of the hand, which will then be read on infrared scanners installed at checkout counters. So that's the sort of where it kind of started.
I think that this like kind of thought about like the barcode being the mark of the beast is still really prevalent today. Like it has not really gone away. However, when it comes to actual people getting barcode tattoos, I know, Adam, your college roommate had a barcode tattoo.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
He had one on the nape of his neck.
Okay.
I don't know what it
like Hitman.
What?
Or I guess it's on the back. Like
yes, I do remember that.
Very, very much like Hitman.
I don't remember what it scanned either. I do remember.
It was before Hitman. I mean, maybe Hitman was out at the time, but I remember him showing me that barcode tattoo, and I was like, huh? But you know that people are doing like the barcode tattoo more as a joke right now. Like there was a guy that went viral.
Costco.
Well, there's the Costco rotisserie. I think that's a shirt.
Yeah,
was that a tattoo?
Yeah, it was a shirt. No, it was a shirt.
Okay, this guy had a shirt of the barcode for the Costco rotisserie chicken that he's like, well, I can't wait for these guys to scan my chicken, so I'm just going to scan it here. There was a English guy at a Sainsbury who he always had trouble scanning the Cadbury cream egg because it was very round and it was like a weird shape. So he just got it tattooed on his arm so that he could not have to like fuck around with the egg shape.
It's a big brain move right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a random memory realizing that in my senior year of high school, I got fired over some barcode shenanigans from a Blockbuster. Really? Yeah.
What happened?
So I'd worked there for years, and we had a new manager, and she didn't like most of us, but especially didn't like me. And I was a shithead teenager. Like, so I would, kind of mess with her at time. Like, I would leave stuff hidden or whatever with my friends, just joking around or whatever. So she was looking for something to fire me for. And I think it was my open house for high school. I had all this money for my open house. I was really into movies. I was going to be going to college to learn how to make movies and stuff. So I had an employee discount at Blockbuster, and I was like, I'm going to use a bunch of my open house money, buy a bunch of DVDs, and kind of kickstart my little movie collection. And the way that our manager had taught us in the past, because similar to what we're talking about earlier with the pricing, the discount varied from thing to thing. We didn't have like a blanket 20% off of everything. So some movies it would be significantly more or less or whatever else. So the way she taught us was just like scan it on your account, see what the discount is. And if you don't want to get it, switch it over to void, scan it again, it clears it out. So it doesn't mess with inventory. It's just, it deletes it. So, and we could do that with multiple things. So like if I scanned a movie and it ended up being, $10 bucks. And then I had another movie that cost the same. I could use void on that barcode because it wasn't doing anything with inventory. It's just deleting. So one night working there, I had bought a bunch of movies. I was like, all right, let me see how many of these I can get. And I was scanning all of them, realized, okay, I'm not going to get this many this night, whatever. So I grabbed a copy of Lady in the Water, which was out at the time, M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Quote unquote, fantastic movie.
Yeah, of course.
Not a good one, right?
No, not a good one. And I used the Lady in the Water DVD to void out because I was like, I'm not going to buy these tonight. I just want to know how much the stack is going to be because we could save our stuff or whatever. Scanned it a bunch of times, voided it all out, closed the store like normal, cashed everything out, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day I got called in and the district manager was there and they took me into the back room and they were like, we have proof that you've stolen from the store. And we're going to give you the opportunity to quit. If you don't quit, we're going to fire you. And we're also going to reach out to the police and, press charges, all this kind of stuff. So I'm like 17, 18 years old. I had just gotten a scholarship to college. I've never gotten in trouble before. My dad was a local pastor. I was terrified. So I was like, I guess I have to quit. But I asked them, I was like, what proof do you have? Like, what are you talking about? And they were like, right here. And they pulled out this long ass receipt. And it was all of those voids from Lady in the Water. And she was trying to say, and my first question was like, why would I steal 30 fucking copies of Lady in the Water? But like, that was the proof that they had. That's haunted me forever. So as you were saying that earlier, I was like, UPC got me fired from my first time I ever got fired from a job was because of some UPC shenanigans.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't have quit. I should have pushed it more, but I was young and worried.
They know what they're doing to a 17-year-old. Those Blockbuster district managers.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's definitely part of that. It's more surveillance in a certain way. Like it is part of the surveillance culture. Mm-hmm. I have to think of it's obviously expanded outside of grocery stores. You're using it at Blockbuster to steal copies of Lady in the Water. It's on like hospital wristbands.
Oh yeah.
Where like anytime they give you like an Advil, they like type in, Advil, $70 for 2 Advil, and then they scan your wristband when you're comatose in the hospital and can't consent to the 2 $70 Advils. Like I'm curious if they're being used in detention centers. I don't have a big knowledge of like things.
I'm sure they must be.
Yeah. But like everything that was convenient and cute for a minute, it has turned like sinister and foul.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anything that can help big baseless corporation squeeze a little more money, yes, will turn foul.
It's not been since you guys have been talking about it too that I realized that it's one of those things that I don't really see changing or going away. Like
wait for that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead.
No. It's funny you would say that because like they are actually changing barcodes.
Okay.
But before we get to that,
Yeah, let me just run through a bit history stuff, and then I don't
future.
I don't actually know about
Okay.
that. Yeah, I'll just say that in 1992, Papa Bush was running against Clinton.
This was George H.W.
George H.W.
What was the old man Bush?
I don't remember.
The smoking man. Did you ever remember from the X-Files, the smoking man? It turned out he was a Bush. Conrad Bush, I think his name turned out to be.
Oh, really? Cigarette smoking man?
Right.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. He visited the National Grocers Association convention, and the quote, he grabbed a quart of milk, and then he said, "I'm amazed by this technology." So that became that just went across the world about, he's so out of touch that he doesn't know what a UPC code is. To his credit, he was at the National Restaurant Association that had a lot of fancy UPC shit that was not just a normal thing, but also, not to his credit, everyone believed it because he was fucking out of touch.
He's a Bush.
Yeah.
I have no idea what a normal person is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Do y'all, when you're doing your scanning of barcodes at self-checkout, which we talked about self-checkout, and I'm not wild about self-checkout, but like I still struggle with the barcodes. Like I don't think that it's the easiest thing for me to personally.
Yeah, like a frozen bag of peas when it's like rounded and you have to like
Cadbury egg.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you landing on like feeling out your UPC scanning abilities these days?
I do okay. I think similar to what Adam said, like it's more that sort of thing. If there's a wrinkled, aspect of it or whatever, I got to smooth out. I feel like it's gotten better over time. It feels like as opposed to like if I'm using a crumpled up dollar bill, the vending machine, I feel like I've had to fight with that the same way I have since I was a kid until now. Like they've never really gotten better at that. It's got to be exactly perfect. Like it doesn't feel quite that way with UPC codes now at self-checkout for me, but I do like that in most of them they have the gun higher up just in case you need that if the other one isn't working. But yeah.
All right.
I don't love it, and I don't think I'm ever gonna get comfortable scanning my own shit. But
let's hear about the future.
No, the future. Yeah. So, first of all, real quick before we get to the future, I wanted to ask either of you, because Adam, you put out albums, David, you put out books, I put out books. Have either of you bought a UPC code from, GS1 or another reseller?
I don't think so. I've done
Bought I've been on like website, like I've paid distributors that then I can request one, so they must be buying one. So yes, I've gone through the process of getting unique UPC codes, but I don't think I actually paid GS1. Maybe indirectly, but
I was looking at the business model. I put out the most serious book that I've ever put out. It's a stupid ass book. It's called These Boulders. It's really teeny tiny, but I printed 1,000 of them from a printer in China. It was that. And they sent boxes and boxes and boxes of them to my house. Mm-hmm. And I really thought about getting a UPC code for it because they say that it's helpful. And if you want to sell it on Amazon, you need to have the UPC code. Mm-hmm. You can subscribe to GS1 and then you get 10 UPC codes for a $70 a year subscription or something like that. Or you can buy one for, I think the going rate right now is about $30.
Okay.
Wow. And then there's a lot of people who are reselling UPC codes, but if they're not from GS1, then your bigger resellers like your Amazons and your Targets and Walmarts and stuff might not fuck with them. They might say, this is not a real UPC. And that's where you're starting to get your sticker and putting your different buying a different UPC and putting it on your books or whatever. So always buy a GS1 UPC code. And speaking of GS1, and speaking of the future, they are phasing out UPCs and shifting to new data-rich product codes. They're calling it the 2D barcodes. So I guess the current barcode is one dimension, and these are being rolled out by GS1. They're planned for 2027. It's been in the works for 5 or 6 years now. And I've seen them. I don't. Obviously, they're not out yet, but it looks like they incorporate kind of a QR code into it. So it's like a combination of a classic barcode UPC code that you think of, and the QR functionality. They don't look that cool. They look clunky. They're not as cool as a normal barcode. If it was on the back of Hitman's head, on the nape of his neck, you'd think that he was a fucking dork. But
that's the true litmus test. How cool does this look on the tattoo to the back of my head?
But they're saying that it is going to be it's going to be better for this like more serious supply chain. So like when you're scanning it at the warehouse and then putting it on the truck, it's going to be like more scannable. I mean, it's more surveillance, but yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean that's what they want to track individual items, but they also want to be able to. It's like a dog chip or whatever. They want to be able to attach information to
closer to like an RFID. Is that that's the chip type?
Yeah.
And hey, I'm just trying to get my barcode so I could get Doritos. That's the chip type I'm after. Sorry. I got to get my fresh Lay's by scanning the QR code at Super Bowl commercial. Any final thoughts? That's the future of UPCs. Any final thoughts? Anything else we want to hit?
I don't think so. I'm genuinely happy. I kind of have a better idea of how they work now because it's been a mystery to me for years. So
now you know, and I hope that we have satiated your knowledge, your curiosity.
Absolutely.
UPC codes. We are gonna wrap it up. If people want to find more from DC Hopkins, where can they find you?
My website's probably easiest, hopkinsletters.com. And then I've got links on there to, I've got portfolio stuff on there. Actually, you can see some of the stuff that I worked on with Jef. I believe I have a page or two from the Chopped comic that I love.
I forgot about the damn Chop comic we did.
I love that comic.
Where Ted Allen, we did, it's a comic about Chop Halloween edition.
Yeah.
Halloween Chop comic. And Ted Allen hits me up every so often saying like, that's right, I really like that comic.
Yeah, the contestants have to like make the next round features the corpse, like remnants of the contestant that got chopped and killed by Ted. It's a pretty great comic. You did an awesome job on that. And then also I have a picture of we worked on a Third Eye Blind album together.
That's one of my proudest
website too. Yeah, me too. I love working on that. But then I've got links on there to social media and all that jazz too. But
your podcast is called Eerie International.
Eerie International, horror podcast.
And if you go to a comic book shop, you'll probably find some of your work on the shelves, right?
Yeah. I've got a graphic novel coming out through Marvel and Abrams in a couple months. That's like a Iron Man and Hulk team up book that was a lot of fun. Like
those
Abrams book.
Those Abrams collaborations, that's like kind of the high A stuff too. So nice on that.
It runs they do some sweet stuff over there. And then here lately, man, there's one book I'm working on right now that would be the perfect thing to plug, but I think that's like 2 days before they're going to announce it. I don't know that for
coming
a fact.
Out for
I know, weeks. But I can't say it.
Whenever you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm too scared to say it. I will say, not too long ago, here will be the hint. I got to work on, over at Image, they're doing, they got the Universal Monsters license. I'm a huge Universal Monsters fan, and I got to do the Creature from the Black Lagoon one.
Cool.
So they did just announce with that they're re-releasing it, because now it's in hardcover and collected edition and all that jazz. But they just announced that they're re-releasing it as like a black and white edition to kind of do like a throwback to the original film. So
awesome.
That'll be in comic stores soon.
Nice.
Well, it was really fun to catch up with you. It's been a while since we chatted. And thank you for joining us to talk about UPC codes.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you, DC Hopkins, and for Clean Up on Aisle podcast. For Adam Fligsten and myself, Jef Harmatz, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.